concerned. Okay, I am concerned that you're dealing with the adjudicator or the chairperson, whatever he's called, the official, didn't go very well because you were focusing on facts and data of the case, and he and the other witnesses were trying to make the case that you have been found guilty of not adhering to your agency's rules. So it had nothing to do with the accuracy of your data. It had to do with your misbehavior. And you were, as I recall, you were mostly defending yourself by the accuracy and the truth of your data. And I didn't think that the adjudicator or the other witnesses were sympathetic to you defending yourself by presenting your case prematurely. And I think that it boiled, from my observation, my opinion is that it boiled down to the dilemma of you having to choose from obeying your rules of employment or trying to make the case that your rules of employment were requiring you to be, in your view, dishonest by hiding the truth of the data, the truths of the data. So I was watching you trying to defend yourself with the data when in fact they weren't accusing you of wrong data. They were accusing you of revealing the data without their authority. So I can sympathize with your position of having to hide data from the public as part of your employment rules.
That is correct. Yes, that's how they try to frame this discipline. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, there are two things I'm trying to get out of this hearing. The first one is really, it's my opportunity to show some data, at least during this short period of time, for those people who are watching it and those who are following later offline. They will be finally able to see a lot of data and beautiful graphs, which I have made from official data, if they're interested to learn more about this particular type of data. That's number one. Now, secondly, I do need to defend myself. You are correct. And to defend myself, I do need to refer to case law and authorities, what they call legal authorities, meaning the actual legal precedents and regulations. And I'm not very knowledgeable in that, but we have a AI assistant, ChatGPT, who is helping me and many of my friends, colleagues. And I have mentioned to the chair that I've been nominated by over 100 of members of my union and voted by over 1,000 of members who are supporting me exactly for the priorities which I have chosen for my electoral platform, the two of which are fear of reprisal and political pressures on our work, on everything we do. So indeed, and I had it in my introductory notes, I made a statement that this hearing is really about the future of Canada, whether we will allow evidence to be hidden or manipulated or fit to the desired narrative, or whether it will be the opposite. We have the evidence will be known, and the decisions will be made based on the actual evidence and not based on some political agendas or corporate interests. So I put it in the introductory note, and introduction in the first introductory note in the beginning of my hearing. And yes, when we resume sometime in summer, I was told, that's what I'm going to really to focus on. And I will use previous examples, legal precedents, where public servants were successful in defending their right to talk the truth, which went against the employer's narrative or employer's interest, because it was in the interest of public.
Right.
And there are a number of very important conditions for this to allow. First, it should not affect my performance, and both of my employers have confirmed my performance did not suffer. And it should not affect the performance of my agency. And in my case, it's border services. So it has nothing to do with the protection of our borders. So it's easy. I think it's quite easy for me to prove that at least my case is quite clear. It has nothing to do with my performance. It has nothing to do with the mandate. It has with the overall pressures, which all of us, not only me, and I mentioned it could have been any other data scientist in any other agency, fisheries, oceans, forestry, parks, and so on. So that's why this case becomes quite important. It will set a precedent. It will set a historical precedent on the situation when this action of mine done entirely of my off-duty work, and again, I was on leave without pay. So there is even no question about that. It was done on my own machine, on my own time, and it has nothing to do with the agency mandate, with my performance, but it was seen as going against the interest of my employer.
Right. Well, would you characterize that as whistleblowing?
I would characterize it as, I tried to characterize it as whistleblowing. There is a portal where you can report whistleblowing. And I went to this portal, and it is not designed in such a way that you can use it in my case, because it is designed for a person. You whistleblow against a particular person, and you need to name this person.
Well, who
And
was the author of your conditions of employment? Is that person not?
because in my case, I'm not whistleblowing about, let's say, my manager or my director.
Right.
I'm just showing the data. I'm even trying to be very careful in how I phrase myself. I do not say I criticize the government. I say they publish the data in such a way that it is hard to understand. Or maybe they're not publishing the data at all. They delayed by 9 months. For example,
Right.
the insight, which relates to increase in deaths among young Canadians.
Right.
They published it eventually in September 2022, and I put it in writing in January 2022 that I see increase in deaths among young Canadians.
And did it bother your conscience that you were inhibited from distributing that data?
In my mind, I had never any doubt in the what I was doing. I knew this is the best possible action from me or anyone in my position as a data scientist who has a chance and skills to get the data, to see it for yourself, to make decision for my own body, which I made. I decided not to take the second shot, even at the cost of extremely high financial and psychological losses.
Right.
So which shows that the reasoning behind my decision must have been extremely powerful. If I decided, after even having taken the first shot, I decided not to take the second shot because there was something really so prominent in the data I have seen myself as a data scientist, that for myself, I made the decision it's better to lose half a year's salary and eventually lose one of my properties and many other financial losses. It was more important for me than to take this product just based on the information which I have obtained myself. But the next question arrived after I made decision for myself. Do I have a moral responsibility to remain silent? If I made the decision for myself, on one side I had concerns of my health. On the other side, I have thousands, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and all my mortgages, all my insurances for all my family, and I have to weigh this. So I made this very hard decision. Although even here I was tricked into believing that they will suspend mandates on April the 6th, which they promised. But it happened to be yet another promise which was never, how you say it in English, was never fulfilled. It was they just forgot about this promise. The first promise was that no one will be forced to get vaccinated. The second promise was that they will review it in April the 6th. So I kind of calculated all our, finances, and it was already January, and I thought, okay, with my wife, okay, we can live for 3 months. Maybe we can live without salaries. We'll just put on hold all our mortgages, all our dental and payments for my daughter. She was doing the just orthodontic things, which you have to pay like 200 every month.
Right.
So, but again, this promise was not. They forgot about this promise. So they continued with the mandate until June, and we know the only reason they have suspended the mandates because there was a legal case by Brian Peckford, Honorable Brian Peckford, who challenged the mandates, and only because of this legal case they suspended so that the case can become moot and removed from consideration. So I have a moral responsibility to at least to make this data known in the best possible, in the most professional manner I could do as a data scientist, who for 2 years before that was teaching his colleagues to do visualizations and data engineering, which is a process of automatically extracting data from huge databases, data sets, and merge those data sets and visualize them in the most beautiful manner possible. And
Right.
I've done it.
You were effective as a conscientious objector.
And I was not disruptive. In no way I was trying to disrupt or discredit my employer. I was engaging all internal resources, discussing it internally, and approaching my directors, of course, first.
Yeah, well, they had the opportunity. You gave them the opportunity, it appears, to persuade you or force you to curtail your revealing of the data in a public forum of some sort. And you had a internal battle going on as to should you abide by your moral and ethical obligations to yourself and to your fellow citizens and to the victims of what you saw through the data happening in the country. And that is the dilemma that you, I think, need to defend. You need to defend the moral choices, the ethical choices, the truth of the data that they were trying to force you to hide.
That's right. So
And did your I haven't read or I'm not aware of the conditions of employment, but does your conditions of employment say something to the effect that under all circumstances you must defend the decisions made by the other authorities above you in the hierarchy?
So that's where we are getting to the point of which I wanted to discuss with you, because there is exception in the duty of loyalty when the actions which I'm asked by my employer to do directly affect the health and security of Canadians.
Yes, and I think that is the strongest
And that's
defense.
in fact the only reason why I've done it, because this affects the lives and well-being and health of many Canadians. And you are one of those individuals, from what I understand, that you suffered a side effect from the vaccine. So you
I
can
didn't
tell
take
us.
I did not take the vaccine.
Okay,
The worst I did was we were for a very short period of time washing our groceries of all the ridiculous things, and we abided by mask mandates only under duress. You know, you cannot come into this premises without a mask, and there's still masks being required by various institutions.
so
So
in
if
your
I
case,
want, go
I
ahead.
guess you were already retired, right? So you didn't have to comply with mandates.
That's right. I was fortunate in that regard. My son, on the other hand, had to get the vaccine in order to carry on our business. He's a photographer, and of course, he goes to different locations, and in those locations, some of them want masking and vaccination proof, etc. And as a consequence, he complied in order to maintain his, like you say, pay the mortgages and the
That's
dental.
right. So what I'm trying to get out of my case is the evidence that the data sharing was critical for the well-being and security and health of all Canadians.
Yes.
Because,
And your employer didn't agree with that.
and that's right. And apparently my employer believes the opposite. They believe that sharing the data was detrimental to the life and well-being of Canadians. In fact, at some point they even said, like, Dmitry, because of your posts, they will have more hesitancy and
Yeah,
less people will get vaccines, and because of that, more people will die of COVID.
but they didn't.
And that's exactly the point, because when you look into the data, you see that the rates at which people die of COVID are
Yeah.
approximately the same, and for vaccinated and fully vaccinated, and even worse, with time, fully vaccinated become more susceptible to COVID deaths than
Due to
unvaccinated.
VAIDS, due to vaccine acquired immunodeficiency.
So again, so I think the um, key point in making the final decision for this case would be the following: my actions, did they contribute to saving lives, or, as my employer states, to the opposite, that my
Right.
actions contributed to higher risks of deaths
Right.
of Canadians? And who
Eh,
will make this judgment? Who will make this final question, whether my actions of showing the data saved lives or reduced lives?
Right. So the data, not just you, but the data should show that their position caused more deaths than your position.
Exactly. So that's why I set up this website where I just put all this data right there, and it has a number of different key pieces of evidence. And the first piece of evidence is that efficacy. There is no data related to efficacy of vaccines. And I just published last night in my Substack little 15 minute what I call data evidence capsule, which shows very easily that number of deaths among fully vaccinated was going up and up every month, and was not looking good.
Did 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 your employer, the level of employer that you have access to, did they share your clear data with their superiors.
No,
What I'm driving at is if they are under pressure from their superiors to suppress your data, then they were just following orders.
that's right. Everyone was following orders, and none of them looked into the data which I was sending to them, from what I understand. Or
And
when
how did the Nuremberg trials treat those who were just following orders?
That's right. So many of my supporters suggest that I do reference Nuremberg trial exactly in this reference, in
Right.
having these parallels of just following the orders. I was just following the orders. And they have, all of them, they have this, they keep saying the same narrative. It looks like it was part of their training. The narrative which they should say in this type of discussion. We are in the middle of a hurricane. We're in a plane. We need to trust pilots. No one argues here. Our pilots know the best, right? So, and we just need to follow the rules. We need to follow the instructions from the pilot. So that's how they justify everything they've been doing. Now, who is their pilot, or who is telling the pilot where to navigate? There remains the question, and they don't ask this question somehow. And when there is a data scientist which comes with the data, then they also don't want to look into this evidence. And you remember,
This is how you should approach it with the adjudicator. The adjudicator should realize that these people who have charged and are implementing these sanctions against you are just following orders of their superiors, and their superiors should be held accountable, and it should be made clear that their superiors didn't pay attention to the data, and it cost lives as a consequence.
that's right. That's what we are trying to say here. Now, another point which is evident here, that many people still honestly believe whatever is said by our official channels. How shall I put it more politically correct? They listen only to CBC, right? So if you listen only to CBC, you will know only a particular type of truth.
Yeah,
And
but CBC only listens to their political masters because
exactly, but that's why I say it becomes more, it's more subtle in terms of it's not only the obedience of, let's say, my directors are following their superiors. No, they, I think, might be honestly believing that we're in a plane and we need to follow the instructions, because that's the only message they hear.
Well, they heard your message, they heard your data, but they didn't believe it,
That's right.
perhaps. So can they falsify your data? And if they cannot falsify your data, case closed. I mean, you are doing what you were hired to do. You exposed the truth to them, and it appears they were powerless to utilize the results of your employment with their superiors. It's just like the CBC publishes what their political masters require of them. They are maybe sincerely, as you say, they sincerely believe that the left wing, shall we say, or the socialist manner of running a country is superior, and therefore the public should not be exposed to alternative interpretations of reality. So, you know, you were hired because of your skill at compiling and communicating data, you were hired to do something that was going to prove them mistaken.
That's right. So, Bob, I'm looking at the time. have maybe about 10 more minutes left, but what I would like maybe to get out of our discussion, maybe just your own story or perspective. Can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you find out about my hearing? Just why it's so important to you?
Well, because ever since I realized that what did it for me was the ban on ivermectin. And I thought, I did a bit of research on what ivermectin is and what it does and how safe it is and how it's available over the counter in many countries in the world. And I thought, there's something wrong with this picture. Why would they ban the use of a drug that is effective as a prophylactic or as a cure? And the evidence of the effectiveness of that drug is now overwhelming.
It's not overwhelming, of course, for them who even cannot see the data from their own official sources.
Yeah, but they don't want to be charged with a criminal offense, so they have to defend the. I mean, there's a Hegelian discourse, and I mean, there's so much evidence of it. I've got 20 some odd pages of references and of people who are thinking along the same lines as you and I, and have discovered so much corruption. This German, what's his name? The fellow in Germany who was kidnapped out of Mexico.
Okay, well,
I mean, I just did it by reading, asking questions and not getting answers.
Mm-hmm. So Bob, again, is there anything you wish to ask me, just for yourself or for community, which I might be able to answer related to my hearing or data or anything?
Well, no, the only thing that bothered me was the fact that you seemed to ignore the instructions of the adjudicator, and you were presenting your case, presenting the facts, when you should have been trying to show the weakness of the people that you were interviewing or confronting, show the weakness of their case. Like, who do they report to? Was your material shared with their superiors? Was it presented in an unbiased manner? Who were these people that were requiring you to discipline Dmitry? You know, they have feet of sand. You know, they don't have a stable leg to stand on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Only the fact that the letter of your terms of employment appear to have been violated. It's just like standing before a Nazi court as someone who helped protect Jews. I mean, it's like they were helping to protect their neighbors who were Jewish, and they got caught and they got punished by the German courts.
Now we have to be very careful in how we phrase it, of course, because
yes.
In Germany, let's say, they were probably not. They would. I'm not sure when they were, let's say, getting Jews in ghettos. It was probably also justified for some safety reasons. It's normal. It's always done for some safety reasons for our country.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so we are doing what is the safest. Otherwise, if you keep those people, they will create I don't know how they phrase it, but something related to security and life of all Germans. because this is
Yeah, yeah.
how
They were a threat to the
they were a
stability.
threat. Yeah, that's right. They were a threat to Germans.
Yeah,
But again, we have to be very careful in phrasing, in making those parallels, and that's why
because
I'm
yes,
not making those parallels uh, here. But
it's a very sensitive topic, especially these days when there is so much movement in the political scene towards uh, hiding truths and
yeah,
distorting truths and using fear as a tactic, so people will prefer to take act for safety,
yes,
choosing safety over truth.
that's right. That's right. So I got your message, Bob. So thanks for reaching out. How did you get my contact? Can you just remind me how did you come? How did you come to find me?
I don't recall. I know I went through a lot of steps using YouTube and Facebook, and looking up your history and what I wanted to contact you directly, and I managed to get your email address. I forget
Yeah, yeah,
exactly how.
it's somewhere there for sure. So I think you probably have seen my Substack. So I have two Substacks.
Well,
Uh,
I confess that I haven't followed them closely. I remember referring to your Substack. I have so much on my plate, including my own health now. I fractured my ankle at Christmas, and I just took the boot off a few
mhm.
days ago. Uh,
Oh,
and then in the meantime, I have a hernia that I have to deal with, and the wait times for surgery on that are months
yeah, yeah.
to get surgery. So I've got issues I'm dealing with. I have a beautiful dog that needs to be walked, and I can't walk properly. So I've got a number of things on my plate.
So where are you right now? In British Columbia somewhere, right?
No, no, I'm in Ontario,
Oh, you're
near
in Ontario.
near
Where
Toronto, in
in
Caledon,
where?
Caledon,
In
Caledon.
Hamilton.
Yeah, near Toronto. I can
Uh,
see the CN Tower out my front door.
oh, okay, okay. Oh, good to know. All right.
I have waterfront property after the next ice age.
Nice, nice.
I'm
Oh,
on the Niagara Escarpment,
okay,
which
maybe
is
one day.
that's the old lakeshore back.
I see, I see. Yeah, one day I will definitely pass by, you know.
Okay, well, I'll send you my hobby card. I've been an automobile hobbyist since I was 15 years old,
Oh, nice, nice.
and I
Okay.
just sold my last collector car just a few
Oh,
months ago.
oh, really? Oh, that's very, very interesting. Good hobby, good hobby. Bob, it's nice talking to you. Thanks for your feedback and support.
Okay, so I'm off to the lab for some lab tests for.
Okay, good luck with all your,
Okay,
your
and keep in
things.
touch.
Yeah,
I do.
we'll stay in touch. Yes. Bye,
Yeah,
bye, bye
I
now.
highly respect your work.
Thank you very much again. Bye, bye.
Take care. Bye bye. Now how to get out of here.